And I think in many ways it's the same with chess, that you have this pattern recognition, you have a lot of analysis going on, and you are presented to the result, but you don't really know how you reach the result.
It's like learning a language with chess, that you, whether others hear or see chaos, you see clear lines and you see patterns.
It is a pattern that has to be recognized by your brain, and if it doesn't get the cues, you cannot see it properly. But you have a great ability to remember, so you can remember a lot of chess games, a lot of positions, a lot of specific materials.
What's up guys, Nelson Dellis here, and in today's video, we are gonna learn how to memorize an entire chessboard. You ready? Let's go. All right guys, welcome and thank you for watching this video. I hope you like that intro, a little different, something out of the norm, a little over the top, since this is about something so grand as chess. And what I thought I'd do in this video is teach you, anybody, whether you know chess well or you don't, how to memorize all the pieces on a chessboard. So an 8x8 regular chessboard and 32 pieces, both black and white, spread out randomly across this board. How to remember where they are, take them off, and place them back in the same spot. Now, before we get started, a couple little notes I should get out there. One is that I'm no chess expert. I like to play chess, I'm pretty good at it. I wouldn't consider myself great by any means, nor am I rated or anything like that. So I'm approaching this from the perspective of a memory champion, not a chess champion. Let's get that clear. The second point I'd like to bring up is I know that memorizing a chessboard with random pieces anywhere is not really useful for the game of chess, because a lot of the configurations you could randomly come up with will never appear in any chess game. Now there's this famous anecdote about a study where, chess players have been tested on memorizing boards, and when it's some kind of chess related configuration that might actually happen in the game or mimic some kind of opening, they can do it really easily.
I mean, this is hitting this, which is defended by this, and you've got this pawn structure, which is very normal, and the two bishops here, and this knight is very important to remember, and I mean, they all just sort of fit together.
But if you put the chess pieces in any random order, their memory was no better than the average person. It's really interesting.
It's about as much as I remember.
So then the question is, well, what's the point? The point is, it's a great memory exercise, and it's kind of a cool little parlor trick to show how powerful the memory can be. All right, let's get started. So there's gonna be two different approaches I'm gonna cover in this video. The first one will be for absolutely anybody. I'll show you how to get it started. There's not really much prep you need. The second method will be a little more advanced if you have a number system. I talk about this a lot in other videos. For those of you that do have a number system, go to this timestamp right now and I'll show you another way to do this that takes advantage of your already set number system. Now here are the broad strokes. What are we gonna do? Okay, so there are 32 pieces on this board, right? 16 on the black side, 16 on the white side. And a lot of them are mirror images of each other, right? There's pawns on this side, pawns on this side. There's knights, rooks, bishops, king, queen, all that stuff. So what the goal is to come up with a picture and an action for each of these pieces, both black and white. And then when we want to memorize them, we're going to imagine this board, this 8x8, 64 location board, as a map to a real life memory palace. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. The first thing we need to do is come up with an image for all 32 pieces. Sounds difficult, but a lot of these are actually already some kind of very memorable image. So maybe we can play on that. All right, so as I said before, each piece is gonna have a person and also an action associated with it. I'll show you why when we start to use the memory palace. But for now, just follow along. So let's start with our kings here, the two biggest pieces on the board. We have the black and the white. When I think king, I think immediately of King Kong. He's the king of gorillas and he's got black fur. So he can be the black piece here, the king. Since that's animal movie themed, then maybe I should choose Simba from The Lion King. He's the king and he's got a lighter shade of fur. So I have King Kong and The Lion King. Now, a side note, whatever I come up with here, don't feel like you're obligated to keep the same. Feel free to write down your own. I'm just giving you some suggestions. And maybe for actions, I'll think of him, he's pounding like his chest, so King Kong pounding, and the Lion King is roaring. Okay. Next up, let's do the queens. All right. Queen, I think of like a queen bee, since they're black and yellow, buzzing around. So maybe it's the queen bee. She's the black queen, and her action is making a buzzing sound. And then for the white queen, we can think of the Queen of England because she has white hair. Maybe her action is sitting, because I imagine her just sitting on the throne. Bishops, all right. Bishop, I think of someone holy, maybe a priest, right? He kind of wears black attire, so he's the black piece. And then the white piece, maybe it's the Pope, right? He's always clad in white. Now for actions, maybe for the priest, I imagine him praying, right? Whatever that means to you or in your mind. And then for the white Pope, I imagine him waving, giving that Pope wave. All right, next up we have knights, the horses. They look like horses, so I think the most straightforward thing we could do is picture some kind of horse. So maybe the black will be like a black stallion kind of horse, and then maybe a white could be a unicorn horse, right? Because they're typically white. And they're quite distinct in that sense. Anyways, and for actions, maybe horse could be riding, because you ride a horse, and then a unicorn could be the action of flying, because unicorns fly. Next, we have the rooks, or the castles. So castle makes me think of like a medieval kind of Game of Thrones kind of thing. So maybe the black one could be an executioner. I just see this executioner all clad in black. He's got an axe maybe. Maybe the white one could be like a knight. Shining white armor. And their actions, executioner, I think of him swinging down an axe blow. And then the knight here could be fighting with a sword. And then finally, we just have the pawns here, the smallest pieces on there. And yeah, there's a lot of them, but that's okay. Pawn sounds to me like prawn. So I think of like a shrimp or some kind of maybe sea fish, right? So pawn, prawn, fish, whatever. Some kind of black fish, maybe we could think, well, it's not a fish. I was gonna say an orca whale. I think it's a mammal. So whatever, that's some kind of aquatic animal. So we have an orca for the black one, and then for the white one could be our shrimp, okay, because they're kind of pink white. And in terms of actions, for the orca whale, I just picture an orca swimming really fast in the ocean. Maybe for the shrimp, I think of the action of eating, because you eat shrimp. Okay. All right, now that you have your images, the next step is to figure out how to make this board a memory palace. So for now, let's clear the board. All right. And notice that we have 8 squares across and 8 rows up. What you could easily do is have a memory palace with 64 locations and put something in each of them. Now the question is, well, what if it's empty, right? There's 32 pieces, 64 slots, half of those are gonna be empty. So whenever something is empty, just don't put anything there. When you're going back through your memory palace and you don't remember seeing anything there, it means there was no piece there. Simple as that. Now 64 items, that's a bit long, so we can do better than that. And that's where the action comes in. So what I'm gonna do is every 2 squares is gonna be a person action combo. And so that means that every row only needs 4 images. 4 times 8 rows, that's 32. So half the images now that you need instead of 64. Great. So if I have 2 pieces in consecutive squares, it would be the first one as a person, the second one as the action, and you make that into 1 image. Put it on that location. And you continue down the board You can go whatever direction you want. I like to start down closest to me from left to right and then work my way to the back of the board. Now there's 4 scenarios, right? There could be 2 pieces on a pair of squares. There could be 1 piece on the left one, that's the person, or there could be 1 piece on just the right, that would just be an action. And then there could also be none on either. None on either, you don't picture anything. Pieces on both, you do person action. If there's just a person, then you just picture the person. If there's just an action, you just picture a generic action happening to that thing. You don't have to specify who's doing it. And in the case of just a person, you don't have to specify what they're doing, they're just there. Sounds like a little complication, but it's really easy to visualize it that way. When you have 2 pieces that are a person and an action, it's very clear that there are 2 pieces there, a person and an action. And when there's just 1 piece on either one, it's very clear whether it's just a person or just an action. And obviously, if there's nothing there, it's very clear that there's nothing there. So I think the next logical thing is to do an example. All right, so we have this random setup here. I just randomly put all of those 32 pieces on this board. And as I said before, I would start in this bottom left corner and go row by row all the way until I reach the very end corner here, going in pairs. Now, to make my life a little easier so I can see each row, I'm gonna make each row kind of its own little area in my memory palace. So the first location in my memory palace will be my dining room here, stopping at each of these 4 locations within the space. Then we go into kind of the entryway here, and I'll have 4 different locations in that spot as well. Then continue that same process for 6 more areas. Remember, you can use any memory palace you want, doesn't really matter. And let's just go through an example here. So what would I see? So I start here with the first 2 images, and I have a white pawn in the person slot. What is the person or living thing associated with this item? Is a shrimp. And the second one here, since there is another piece there, is the knight, and it's a black knight, right, which was the black stallion, but it's the action. It's the second item in that pair. That's always the action. So it's a shrimp riding. You can imagine riding a bike, riding a horse, it doesn't matter. He's just doing the action of riding. Now I'm gonna put this up against the back wall of my first area. That's the first location. And what's happening there? Well, there's a little shrimp just riding along all over the wall, leaving a trail of slime. I don't know, he's got his little shrimp tentacles. Do they have tentacles? Those shrimp little legs just kind of wiggling as he's riding along the wall. Then we move on to the next location, which will be my dog's cage in the corner. And the next 2 locations, there's an empty slot here for the person, but there's a white shrimp for the action. So on top of that cage, I'm gonna picture no person, but the action that's happening to that cage is whatever action is associated with the white pawn. Pawn, prawn, shrimp. What was the action? It was eating. So just imagine, even yourself, since you're the one picturing it, that you're eating this cage. The next location is the table in the middle of the dining room, and there's nothing there. So I literally just move along. I don't think of anything. Then the last location is this little table stand where we put our shoes and keys and stuff like that in the corner of this room. And we have the king, the white king, the lion king, and then no action. So just play Simba there. He's just chilling, and that's it. Let's do 1 more row just to get the hang of it. So the next location area is by my front door, and I have 4 locations. I'm gonna start on the mirror, then I'm gonna go to the dresser, then the floor between the dresser and the door, and then the door itself. That's 4 locations in that little area. There's nothing in the mirror. That's the first 2 slots. Then on the dresser, there's no person, but there's an action. And it's the black queen, which is the queen bee. She's buzzing, and that's the action. So somebody is buzzing at that dresser. Then on the floor, in between the door and the dresser, no person again, but we have the action of the white bishop. The white bishop is the Pope. What does the Pope do? He waves. So the floor is waving. Or maybe you're waving at the floor like, who knows why you're doing that. And then finally, on the door, we have the last one, which is a shrimp doing nothing. There you go. All right, so let's memorize this board. I've already done the first 2 rows, so just kind of bear with me as I try to encode the rest here. Got it. Okay, so let's Oh gosh, why did I do that? Okay, so starting down here on the wall, we had the white bishop. He was riding, which was a black knight. Then we had nothing and we were eating. That's a shrimp. The cage, and we had nothing on the table, and then we had the Lion King, who was the white king. He was just sitting there. Cool, first location done. I think in the mirror we had nothing, and then we had the black queen was buzzing the dresser. On the floor, we were waving. That was the white priest waving, the Pope. And then finally on the door, we just had a shrimp chilling there. I think that's right. Yeah, cool. All right, let's quickly talk about the other option. If you have a number system, this is the way to go. So basically for all the pieces except a few, I give a number from 0 to 9, just one digit. And what I like to do is 0 will be an empty square. 1 could be the black pawn, 2 could be the white pawn, 3 could be the black rook, 4 could be the white rook, and so on. Up until you get to 9, which if you go by increasingly larger size, 9 would be maybe the black queen. What do you do for the white queen, the black king, and the white king? So for those, just find them. It's just 3 pieces. So just remember where they are. In this case, the kings are here and the queen is in the corner. That's really easy to just glance at the end. So you're gonna go from the bottom left here and just encode each row as if you were reading a number. I do an 8-digit PAO, so memorizing a row is just one image to me. It would have a 3-digit person, 2-digit action, 3-digit object. And remember, empty spaces are just zeros. If it's gonna be one of those remaining 3 pieces, the white or black king or the white queen, for now, at the beginning, I just imagine it as an empty spot. And then when I'm done, the last thing I do is I take a quick snapshot of those 3 pieces, and then probably when the board is cleared and I'm recalling, I would place those first because they're from my short-term memory. So there you go, guys. I hope that was really interesting. I know a lot of you guys find chess fascinating. It's a really beautiful game, and memory plays a big part in that. A lot of the lore in chess kind of resides around these blindfold matches and, you know, grandmasters being able to play, you know, 10, 20, 30 blindfolded games at once, which is astonishing. But they're probably using some kind of memory palace technique. Again, it's different than this because they'll actually have familiarity with where the pieces are in terms of opening moves, end games, and things like that, but it's still an incredible feat nonetheless. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions about chess or any recommendations for anything related chess, please let me know in the description. I'd love to hear more from some of you chess experts and hear what you think. Maybe you have another strategy that works better. But this seems to have worked for me, and I've talked to a few other memory people who have tried memorizing a chessboard, and they're kind of on the same page as me. So I think I'm onto something, maybe not the best, but I think it works pretty well. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. I'm out.